Tonight you'll flip a switch, and a room that was dark will simply stop being dark. You won't think about it for even a second. But that switch is maybe 150 years old. For 300,000 years before it existed, the night was a different country, and your ancestors lived there for half of every single day of their lives. No streetlights, no candles for most of that time. Just black sky, stars, and whatever fire they could keep burning. So what filled all those hours? The answer touches predators, sex, sleep, and a word you use constantly without knowing what it actually means. Let's start with the thing that made any of it survivable: fire. Before fire, our ancestors lived like every other primate on the savannah. When the sun dropped, you found a tree or a ledge, and you stopped moving, because moving meant becoming visible to something that could see in the dark far better than you could. Leopards, hyenas, their eyes were built for night. Ours were not. The earliest solid evidence for hominins controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dated to roughly 1 million years ago. Burnt bone and ash found deep inside the cave, far past where a wildfire could have reached on its own. Someone carried that fire in and kept it alive, and fire did something stranger than just keeping people warm. It created a circle of safety. And outside that circle, the old rules still applied. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have found that people who wander away from the firelight at night remain at real risk from predators. Even now, even with everything else that's changed. Inside the circle, for the first time, the night stopped being only a threat. It became extra time. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset, as little as 8 hours of activity in winter. Fire added 2 to 4 more hours to every single day, every generation, for hundreds of thousands of years. So what did people do with them? In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiessner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences built on decades of fieldwork with the hoansi, sometimes called the Kung, of the Kalahari Desert, one of the closest living approximations to how humans spent most of their history. She compared daytime conversations to nighttime, firelit ones, and found something almost like a switch flipping. Daytime talk was dominated by practical matters: economics, complaints, who's hunting where. Night talk, around the fire, shifted overwhelmingly towards something else entirely: stories. Tales about distant people, the past, the origins of the world, jokes that moved through an entire camp. Wiessner's argument was that this firelit space functioned as something close to the birthplace of human culture. The original theater, the original classroom, the place where humans practiced imagining things that weren't right in front of them. Fire didn't just buy time, it changed what people did with their minds when the pressure of the day finally lifted. But there was something else happening in that darkness, something far stranger, and almost nobody remembers it today. You were not designed to sleep the way you sleep right now. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch published research built on 16 years of digging through archives, prayer books, court depositions, diaries, medical manuals, even passages in Homer. Across centuries and across cultures, he found the same 2 phrases again and again: first sleep and second sleep. Before artificial light, people didn't sleep in one block. They went to bed not long after dark, slept 3 to 4 hours, woke for an hour or 2 in the middle of the night, and then slept again until dawn. This wasn't insomnia, it was simply how humans slept for most of recorded history, and the waking hour in between wasn't wasted. A French physician in the 1500s recommended it as the best time for couples to conceive. People prayed, visited neighbors, sat with their dreams while they were still fresh, or just lay in the dark and thought. For generations, historians translating these old texts had assumed first sleep must mean something else, because nobody could imagine that humans once slept any differently than we do now. Then, in 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr at the National Institute of Mental Health tested it directly. He placed volunteers in rooms with 14 hours of darkness a night for a month, no artificial light at all, roughly matching what a pre-fire night would have felt like. Nobody told them how to sleep. Within a few weeks, every participant settled into the same pattern: about 4 hours of sleep, a stretch of quiet wakefulness, then 4 more hours of sleep. Their bodies simply found it, like a program that had been sitting dormant the whole time. Wehr measured their hormones during that waking window and found something specific: elevated prolactin, the same hormone associated with deep relaxation. Participants described the state as calm, reflective, almost meditative. Not a disorder, but a distinct phase of consciousness that most of us have simply never experienced. So what killed it? Light. Cheap, abundant, always-on light. Street lamps appeared in cities in the 1600s. Gaslighting followed in the 1800s. Then, in 1879, Edison's bulb made artificial light commercially available to everyone, and within roughly a generation, 300,000 years of nighttime architecture quietly collapsed. And here's the part almost nobody connects. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu, literally, cover the fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang at a set hour each night, signaling everyone to smother their flames. Not because fire itself was dangerous to leave burning, because night was supposed to return to being dark. Night was for sleeping. Being outside after the bell in many towns was treated as suspicious enough to be against the law. We eventually conquered that darkness completely, and we called it progress. But here's the trade we rarely talk about. Most people today are exposed to artificial light for 7 or 8 hours after sunset. That light, especially the blue light from screens, suppresses melatonin and convinces your brain it's still daytime, even at 11 p.m. Researchers have found that people who spend just 1 week camping with zero artificial light have their melatonin cycles reset within days, shifting back toward sunset. It doesn't take long for the old programming to reassert itself, so the next time you wake up at 2 a.m. and can't immediately fall back asleep, consider a different question than the one you usually ask. Maybe it isn't a malfunction. Maybe, for 1 quiet hour in the dark, your body is doing exactly what it was built to do for 300,000 years, and you're the first generation in all of human history who was taught to call it broken. We traded all of it, the stories, the stars, the quiet hour between 2 sleeps, for a light switch. Most of us never even noticed it was gone.